Watch this episode till the end. It's going to be action-packed and chock full of good info and strident opinion. There will be the following. There'll be a recap of the three shows from my wrestling mates at Alpha Pro that I did the weekend before last. A recap of my last episode, including some great replies from some of you good folk out there. And also a breakdown of CM Punk and the Ryan Nemeth set to, and an open challenge to Tony Khan of AEW. All this and whatever else comes along. Let's make way for the opener. G'day wrestling mates, welcome to another episode of If You See Kayfabe with me, Southern Joe. I'm your wrestling mate from down under. At the time of recording this episode, Alpha Pro Wrestling had just completed a trifecta of year-end shows culminating in the final phase extravaganza on the Saturday night, as well as the much-anticipated Falls Count Anywhere match between Alpha Pro Heavyweight Champion Slade Mercer and the Slim Reaper Mike Chaos. There was a surprise bonus of Australia's first ever stretcher match, which was an absolute banger as Happy Kai defeated the juggernaut Jay Hunter to become the new Pipeworks Market Champion. There was some fun supporting bouts as well, but big ups to Chaos, who defeated Mercer in the Falls Count Anywhere match to win the Alpha Pro Heavyweight title. The afternoon show was very entertaining. My new fave Aussie tag team, Code of Honor, teamed up with my wrestling mate, Matty Wild, for an impromptu six-man tag match against the upstanding Citizens. Now, Bison, he's a young fella, had his match with Daniel Cole cut short when Bison appeared to be knocked out. There were great concerns for Bison's welfare. Now, I spoke with Bison before the evening show, and while he assured me he was okay, he noted that some fellow workers were asking about him as well. Bison looked okay, but he still may have been feeling the effects. It was either a mighty sell job or just the dangers of how wrestlers can still get injured even when they take the greatest precautions. I've enjoyed this upstart promotion, especially since it's only a short drive from my place. Lucky me. Now let's have a recap of my previous episode. One of the opinions contained within were very significant to me. For a while, I was going to cut a promo on you lot because even though I was serious about wanting responses and intelligent discussion about Dave Meltzer, none was forthcoming for a while. But then I got a detailed response from a YouTube customer known as @DanBP1. He agreed that I made some interesting points. Now, the first part of his write-up states as follows. Dave's news items during that period, which is the 80s, lacked a lot of comments from industry figures because A, kayfabe was still huge, B, wrestlers or company employees would be fired if their bosses found out they'd been talking to Dave, and C, if Dave was writing a negative piece about a wrestler, it was highly unlikely that wrestler would want to talk to Dave anyway because he was always a hated dirt sheet guy. I think many people today forget how secretive the business was 30, 40 years ago when Dave started. Now, my response is kayfabe was taking a critical hit in the 80s because of John Stossel and Eddie Mansfield piling on, and Vince also finally saying it was a work to avoid paying the athletic commissions. So kayfabe wasn't on its way out. The wrestling companies could still have had someone be the person that Dave reaches out to for any verifications. Even if they tell him where to go, Dave can state in his article that he attempted to get both sides of the story. Because we're still dealing with real people and their families. Even if Dave perceived that they wouldn't talk to him, he still had an ethical duty to try to get both sides of the story. So I'll just call him Dan at this stage. Moving forward, this is what he went on to say further. Since the Attitude Era, it seems that just about everyone is happy to speak up on podcasts or shoot videos. But these are things where they have control of the narrative. I suspect very few of them would want to be interviewed by Dave or quoted by him because they have no control over the narrative. Now, I don't doubt they would feel they were misquoted by Dave unless they know he'll quote them favourably. This is me talking now. But at least they have a platform to speak out and correct what people believe to be true about certain wrestlers when perhaps they weren't. And people believe that they were true because they believed Dave as no one was there to refute him. And more importantly, Dave didn't give them right of reply. Now, here's another interesting comment from my new wrestling mate, Dan. That said, Dave makes a fair number of mistakes. As a journalist myself, that's Dan, I can attest that he's not alone. A lot of journalists make mistakes. And considering Dave is publishing a 20 to 30,000 word newsletter every week, where a lot of people still don't like talking to him, well, there will be mistakes published. Should he own up to some of them in a more timely manner? Yes, but I don't blame him for most of his cock-ups. He's got far more right than wrong over the past 4 decades. Yes, it's clear that Dave had an AEW bias for the first couple of years. I think if you read his newsletter nowadays or listen to his podcast, he's more blunt about the company's shortcomings, particularly the booking. I think he's always been fairly even-handed about WWE's in-ring. He certainly seems fair about the product now that Vince is gone. Now, for me, I know Dave is a paragon of wrestling knowledge. I reckon he'd be my first choice for a wrestling trivia pub team. But I do believe he needs to be more even-handed with his reporting. Now, I reckon I showed him a great deal of respect. I could have torn him a third corn shoot, but wanted to see him get back to his best. Not get caught up in the petty BS, a la his Dutch Mantel comments, which was what tipped me beyond breaking point anyway, as well as his bias against Cornette, which is also a shame as once upon a time they were good friends. Many people want to make sure they get proper WWE merch. Now, there are 2 ways this can be done, and I'll show them to you now. Now, see here, firstly, you can type in WWE in your search bar, go to the shop link, just like it shows in this demonstration. Or, in this demonstration, use this code and go directly into the shop itself. Yes, it helps the channel. Please use the code and help a wrestling mate. Welcome back to If You See Kayfabe. Ryan Nemeth has surfaced with a formal complaint he has sent to several AEW executives on September 12 this year about a timeline of events in which he was mistreated by Punk. Firstly, his surname is pronounced Nemeth, as it is Hungarian. It is the word Hungarian is used to call someone German. Now, secondly, if Punk was going to go down this wise me road, then the Elite would be able to double down on Nemeth's softest man alive comment in a tweet, which he said in a tweet, which Ryan said he was dropping on X in character. Now, how does anyone know if a tweet is done in character or not when it's words? Well, obviously, Pepsi Phil decided to find out the best way he knew how. Ask him backstage directly. The tweet was in response to a comment CM Punk made in an in-ring promo where character stuff is supposed to be done, where he said, to those people who want an apology, Punk said he's sorry that the only people softer than you are the wrestlers you like. Now, Punk had to endure accusations of him getting Colt Cabana fired, which was later proven false. He also had a mid-carder like Hangman Adam Page go into business for himself. He was attacked by multiple people after his show in an area where he was looking after his precious dog Larry and his best friend Ace Steel's wife, who was on crutches at the time. He also had a confrontation with Jack Perry after Perry deliberately antagonised him on pay-per-view live from Wembley Stadium. Now, I recorded an episode about a year ago in my former role as the Aussie correspondent for the Falling Through the Ropes YouTube show. In it, I stated all the reasons why I believe that the whole brawl out and London backstage was a work. Now, that was obviously before all the security footage came out. I couldn't believe that such stuff was allowed to happen like that. Now, I've since accepted that I was wrong about most of this stuff. I still question why Perry's and Punk's matches were next to each other, especially when a known powder keg was there and had the capacity to erupt. Maybe AEW should have sorted out Ryan's concerns because they seem to be minor in the big scheme of things, but could have been sorted out quickly. Maybe Ryan should be reporting his mates from the Elite for harassment, as they seem to have used him as their mouthpiece against Punk. It seems Punk endured more harassment than anyone else, but it's funny how he has moved on to bigger and better things. Now, this leads me to the biggest disappointment in wrestling currently. That's the way AEW is being run. Ever since the Elite took aim at CM Punk and eventually drove him out of the company, AEW has become more than just a laughing stock. Take a look at this photo of a recent TV taping. These have been indicative of crowd sizes which have been had to be shot in a creative way so as not to expose the small crowd size. There have been some upward ticks in some markets, but not to the extent of this groundbreaking moment when CM Punk debuted. Notice that from that shot, that was from a Rampage taping, which in today's terms, just 2 short years after that debut, is an AEW afterthought. Also, go out of your way to see the backstage footage of CM Punk's AEW debut. See, here it is, as Punk is about to go from the Gorilla's position to the stage where he would be spotted. That still is when the cult of personality hits the PA and the crowd has already erupted. CM gets bashful and says, "For me?" But then the video pans to 3 of the 4 EVPs dissing the one person who gets decimal shattering reactions more than what they can ever do. Now, AEW was formed from the original concept in 2018 of I'm getting upset here. Let me get back to this. Hang on. Now remember, AEW was formed from the original All-In concept in September 2018. Then Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Cody Rhodes were named EVPs under the ownership of Shad Khan and his son Tony, who is the principal owner and runs the whole show. It was meant to be a positive alternative to the WWE, which was in a slump at that time and was still in a toxic state due to the increasingly alarming antics of Vince McMahon. Now, Cody has been run off by the Elite, as has Punk. Both Cody and Punk are now on top of the card in WWE, and this is no fluke. Cody has a story to finish, and CM Punk is one of the most captivating figures in recent wrestling history. Now look at Punk's backstage footage shot by WWE. Triple H and Punk had already had a lengthy talk prior to all of this, and had buried their long-running feud. Look at this photo of Triple H and Punk together, and Triple H jokingly said, "Let's blow up the internet with this photo." With all the troubles and missteps, my challenge to you, Tony, is this. If you would like to truly learn how to book a show on an ongoing basis, you are going to have to truly sit under a learning tree. And by that, I don't mean some lame Y2J gimmick. I mean hand over the reins to someone else with experience. It can be Bischoff, Cornette, JR, Shane O'Mac, Bully Ray. It doesn't matter if it's done in secret and you're still the face of AEW. In fact, I would implement the changes behind the scenes ASAP. I would not tell anyone about it. If ratings don't change, well, it must be something else. If things improve, you'll still get credit for having the sense to have done the right thing and step aside. If your mentor, whoever it be, feels you have learned the booking craft properly in 12 months, 2 years, whatever, then take over once again. Because no one wants to see AEW go away. It was because of AEW's early success that scared WWE into improving their product. They had already been stung once before because they underestimated their rival. You can ask Mr. Bischoff about that one. Well, as a certain mortgage broker from Alabama has said, a lot to unpack there. Please press like and subscribe. Please give to give that notification gimmick a whack and share with all your wrestling mates. Till next time, this is your wrestling mate from down under, Southern Joe, saying hooroo.